I have a lot of experience with the EF mount, but this particular one is the Micro Four Third mount, and I wanted to talk about this one and what I feel like are some accessories that will make this more valuable or more comparable to what's available now in 2018. So let me just get right to this. This is kind of unscripted. I'm just kind of going with the flow here. So, but if you're shooting or happen to be shooting with a Sony camera like I'm doing at this particular moment, and you're filming yourself and you're by yourself, one of these right here works pretty well if you want to digital zoom in. I recommend shooting in 4K since you are cropping into the image digitally. What I can do is like this and smoothly zoom in to a certain point without degrading the quality where it's not too noticeable. And I wanted to show you this item right here. If you see, there's no connections or anything like that. So what it means is if you're using an older lens like this, the FD lens right here with a pretty much like a dummy adapter right here, you can basically adjust the aperture from the lens itself. The lens is cheap. The only thing with me personally, you can do it however you choose to. I feel like FD lenses or other old school vintage style lenses they have a certain aesthetic to it. And if you're okay with that, so they tend to have not as good coatings on them. They're not as sharp wide open. And if these are things or aesthetics that you're going for in your image, then it all works well. But sometimes, at least for me, I want something that looks like the normal look, like what you may see in this video. I find it a little harder if you're in harsher conditions. So this is where I would want to mount EF lenses on here. You can't put a regular speed booster on here because there's no power. So with this, you kind of have a better option with putting cheaper glass on here, but then you lose the option of putting modern day lenses on it and being able to control it. So I wanted to talk about a couple items really quickly that I think kind of help solve that. The first thing I want to talk about besides this is also this right here. It's an IR cut filter. It took me a while to really even understand when I had pocket cameras that this was even necessary. Now this particular one right here, it is a slim filter. You probably can't see it in here, but it has a little like colorish reflection to it, and it basically cuts the IR pollution. When you have heavy ND, usually you'll notice it at least 2 or more stops of ND. You're already degrading the ND quality, the image quality a little bit with variable NDs for the most part. They may add a slight color shift, but I'll show you a quick example that I could pull that I found from old footage that kind of show what this does, especially to the blacks. So take a look at that, let me know what you think. And the most affordable quality one that I could find prior was the HOYA one. At the time when I originally purchased it, it was about $150. I think now it costs about maybe $120 for 82 millimeter. I tend to go bigger so that way you can go ahead and, let me zoom this back out. That way you can go ahead and use step-up rings to put it on other lenses that you have across the board instead of buying a whole bunch of lens filters for each individual lens that you may own. Now, this particular one is made by ICE. You can get this on Amazon, and they also sell it at B&H, but on B&H, they don't really have it in stock. You have to wait a little bit longer. It's an ICE IR cut UV filter, 82 millimeters. When I looked at the specs alone, they seem to block out the same amount of infrared. Now, I don't have the HOYA one on me at the moment to test them side by side. So all I did was, instead of A/B testing them, I just used it, seeing if there was any obvious quality reduction that I didn't prefer, and to see how much infrared that it did cut. Now, in this particular example that you've seen or I'm about to show, I pretty much put the ND filter on super high to the point where it might have added a slight color shift to the overall image. So try to ignore that if you can and just focus on the black part of the image on the backpack. That's where you'll kind of see how this is working. And I noticed that it worked. Whether it works as good or better than the HOYA, I'm not really sure, but there was really no noticeable sharpness loss that I could see where it bothered me. And it did its job good enough to the point where I felt like this is worth it. And this is only about $40. So $40 compared to $120 or more, I think this is a good bargain. These are things that I purchased with my own money. So let me get right to this now. This is actually an extra one. I'll get into this in a second too. They sent me. This right here, I think is a must-have. Let me zoom in real quick. So this right here is a lens regain. This allows you to control your EF mount lens, but you have to do it from the device itself. Now, I'm gonna go over maybe some petty stuff, and I'm gonna also go over what you may find if you search this after you watch this video, or maybe things that you've already heard about based on internet reviews, being at B&H or wherever you may find this being sold. So I'm not gonna go over too many specs per se, but I'm just gonna kind of show these items quickly And like I said, if you have detailed questions, just let me know and I'll go over that in detail with you in the comments or maybe in another video, another part. So it comes in a nice case. Let me just open it up for you. Everything is packaged really nicely, like you may expect. I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this exactly, but it's packed in nicely. Just take my word for it, I guess. It comes with stickers like every Aputure item. I just tucked it behind. It's just stickers and manuals and stuff like that. I'm just gonna get to the point though, as fast as possible. And you see how I'm using this? I'm probably not even gonna cut this out. I just want you to see how this is possible to use, and it could help if you don't have a lot of manpower with you or woman power, or being able to physically move stuff and get up and all that nonsense. This is like a super clamp sort of, or just a clamp that you can use to attach to a tripod leg or whatever you choose to and attach your item. It has this type of connection. I forgot the name of it, but a lot of them you'll find on like stabilizers, where you can use this controller here, has the same connection right here. You can put it on the side and use it as actual one of your handles while still being able to control your rig. So let me put this back. To be honest, I'm probably never going to use that. This is the controller here. Hopefully you can see it. All right, and I already showed you this. And this is kind of plasticky, but it has a rubberized coating and it doesn't feel bad at all. It feels pretty decent for what it is. Okay, so you have different cables here. There's 3 cables. One is for a link cable. I'm gonna hold this one out. One's for GH cables and one's for like charging and upgrading firmware if necessary. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, this is the adapter. Here, I actually purchased this from B&H after the fact. It's about $50. It's a link cable. And what it is, I'll show you why you need it with this particular camera. Now, you don't need it for other cameras like a GH4 or 5 or maybe a Pocket 4K or original Pocket, but it's just an option. So that all fell out, don't worry about it. They already make pre-cuts for the extra accessories that I purchased. Around here, there's like a loop where you can put the cord in, which is pretty nice. So I didn't have to figure out after the fact, where am I gonna put this extra accessories, and it doesn't fit. So it fits right in here. It's a cold shoe mount. And here's the link cable. You know what? I don't know why I keep saying link. This is a link port right here. This is to allow you to control the camera. This is not a link, it's a LEMO connection. This is the actual adapter itself. Now, if you must get super picky, yes, the caps feel a little cheap, but who cares, right? The actual adapter itself feels of quality, feels really solid. The only thing I saw online was that people thought that this unscrewed itself a little bit. If you notice it, I guess you can retighten it. It's not that big of a deal. And this part right here, some people said that it loosened up. And when I say some, I literally mean like maybe one person, maybe 2 on the entire internet. Now, if you look, there's the mounting hole. And if you look here, there's a connection screw that goes into here. The only thing I would suggest is if you start feeling it being loose, go ahead and tighten it up yourself, or go to a camera shop that has the right screws and tighten it up. There's actually one in each. And this basically just keeps it together. I have a carbon fiber, what is it called? A carbon fiber crane. And in that carbon fiber crane, they actually reinforce the screws with this glue. Now that sucks if you want to take it off, but it actually helps keeping screws like these from unscrewing itself. So that actually works out fine. So the only issue that I had with this was there's a felt lining. I'll probably cut to another clip of this, but there's a felt lining around it and it's kind of peeling off. Like maybe it was old stock, it's been sitting for a while, or maybe just the weather conditions allowed the adhesive to kind of undo itself a little bit. I talked to Aputure directly. They actually sent me a replacement. That really didn't work out for me because I felt like this one looks a little bit used. I don't know why. Not anything that I bought here doesn't. It's just that just minor little scratches and nicks on the edges, but they actually allowed me to keep this as a backup, as trying to make it right. And I'm not saying that every time you contact them, they're gonna throw you free stuff or anything. It's just my particular scenario and circumstance. That's what happened. And that's nice. I just appreciate the customer service. I'm not really too worried about the felt. I didn't notice it affecting the image in any type of way. So I'm okay with that. And another reason I'm okay with it is that, like speed boosters, when this first came out, this was priced maybe around $600 or so. On the website, it was only, after shipping in the US, I only paid like $160, $163, which is really good. So I was super happy about that. I got it in less than a week from California. And this replacement was actually sent to me straight from the China distribution or whatever. But this stuff came from the California warehouse. And I was really happy about that price. Now, as far as optics, It gives you extra stop of light. In my personal opinion, I wouldn't use, so my 1.4 lens turns into a f1, right? Now, unless you really need it or you want the softer kind of look, I mean, by all means, use it at f1. I personally wouldn't do it. Usually with these cameras, you're lighting it up anyway, where you probably shouldn't be shooting that wide open, in my opinion. But to each his own, everybody uses cameras for different reasons. I found that if you shoot it at f1, and I'll try to show you or cut to an example where I'm talking, it has a look slightly softy, hazy, ghostly type around the edges. The sharpness just isn't really there enough for me. I feel like you're taking a noticeable hit in quality compared to what your glass is. f1.2, it clears up and it looks definitely usable. And if you shoot natively at your 1.4 or whatever your lens is, it looks good. Now, anytime you put any glass element in front or behind your lens, you have possibilities of lens flare. So you may get that if you're in really bright, harsh sunlight. So if you put even a UV filter, any kind of filter basically on your front of your lens, you could run it across those issues. So this has glass in it. It's a focal reducer. If you want this for the focal reduction because of the crop factor and to be able to control an EF mount lens on here, I think this is a great buy. I would suggest if you really are interested in this or on the fence about it, $150, $160, you might, in my opinion, I'm not trying to sell you on it, but I'm recommending it because I'm really happy with it and I paid for it and I'm just trying to share my experience. I would definitely go ahead and get it. Get it while it's available. I'm pretty sure the next one will be better, but for $150, you really can't beat it. It does feel quality. So I use a lot of art lenses, so like EF mounts for my Canon gear. The only art lens that I did not get a response from with this was the 85-1.4. It just didn't recognize it. That kind of sucks, but I don't know how often I would actually use that lens anyway for video. The filter thread is like 86 millimeters or something. I don't know, it's pretty huge. It's not something I even have filters for video, which you usually need ND filters of some sort. So that's probably not gonna work out for me. All right, so all you do, unscrew this, and I'm gonna mount this like normal, but then I'm gonna go ahead and show you basically why you need this additional kit here that runs about $50. And like I said, I tried to look this up separately just to get the cables. This is something you'll find on other Aputure like Lightstorm lights, except it's not a male-female, or not male, yeah, male-female. It's just like male-male or female-female. So it won't work, but the cables alone, you're gonna pay around $50 or so you might as well just get what's necessary. I have a lens right here. This is a 1635 f4 IS Canon mount lens. This is a, I don't know if you can see it, I'm a little bit far away. It's like an on and off, and there's a rocker there and a USB port to either power it or to firmware update it. And this is another thing, there's like a spring lever. You kind of have to pull back slightly on here. All you do is just push it in, clicks, that's pretty much it. Now the rocker, you can control the aperture without using the wireless controller. So to use this, all you do is turn this, plug it in, make sure that autofocus is enabled, and you hit the on switch here. And here, you should see it light up. Once it's done, it kind of calibrates. Now, I don't know if IS works, but I will say with this particular lens, when I turn IS on and off, you can hear the noise change. So I'm assuming it's communicating and it's working. The focal length, as you move this, the focal length changes on the display. So I'm nobody to tell what you want to buy a camera for. So some people go overkill. They buy things because technology is becoming more affordable, like a Pocket 4K. Maybe a lot of people don't actually need the 4K or the Pocket camera, the cinema style camera, RAW, DNG, whatever. The thing of it is, you can buy what you want. Now, is it overkill? Probably, but the thing of it is, I do understand it at the same time where if you're a creative person, you may want to dive into something that's a little more challenging, something that can challenge you to learn how to grade, even if it wasn't something that you needed to do or cared about before. Because when you do stuff, if you're a creative person at heart and you do things that are very repetitive all the time, same light setup, putting a camera on a tripod, filming yourself or filming something else, it gets a little boring. So I could see why as a creative you may want to challenge yourself and step into the cinema world. And if you can afford it, why not get whatever you want, I guess, whether you need it or not. But that's totally a choice. I don't really feel like, especially if you're a vlogger or a YouTuber, so I'm not really a YouTuber, but I have a YouTube channel, if that makes any sense. So I'm kind of speaking on perspective for both sides, but I'm still neutral and I don't judge or whatever. You have to use whatever is easier in your circumstances and what you're trying to accomplish. Now, with that being said, if you still choose, I wouldn't vlog with this for sure, but if you wanted to film yourself with maybe something like this, I mean, you definitely could still do it. Makes you feel good about whatever you're recording, then by all means, go ahead. This actually makes it usable to do something like that, being that everything is manual on this type of camera. Once you set your exposure, what you can do wirelessly is control everything from here, which is kind of cool. So maybe one day I might just try it just because I can, and that's the thing, and why not, right? So I'll show you that in just a second. And this is the link cable that allows you to do it. You plug one in. Let me unravel this real quick. This is just a very small cable, and it has like a USB type connection, a micro USB, I think it is. You plug this in here, and there's a connector here. Now the problem with this particular body is because it's like a square. I don't think on a GH4, GH5, or on a pocket cameras of any kind, you're gonna have an issue with this, but this one you do because the body's too wide. I don't have room to plug this in. There's no way to do it, right? So this is where this comes into play. Basically, this is like a cold shoe adapter. This right here doesn't need to be seen very close, but all it is, there's grooves on the top and bottom here, and you can just snap it into either side, high or low, it doesn't really matter. You can rotate this pretty much how you want to. This right here, you plug it in the same way you plugged it in, plugged in the actual adapter. There's guidelines, markings. When I first got the cable, I couldn't get it in. It wouldn't go in for some reason. Once I actually fit it one time, then it clicks in easily, and this goes for both ends. Not sure if something wasn't aligned. I'm not really sure, but you see it goes in really easy now. So now that this is plugged in, I turn this on like normal, wait for it to adjust, and I would basically wrap this the way I want this to sit. Right now for the video, I just wrapped it so yes, this is gonna keep swinging around awkwardly. So now that I have this cable, right, I can just plug this in. With this, once this is powered on, you just hit the power on button. This will light up. This comes on. You have a dial here. To the right, it makes the lens open up. And if you turn it to the left, if you're holding it, it closes the lens down. You have a record button here. This is really cool because if you are filming yourself, you can easily catch focus as long as your monitor isn't too far away and you can see the focus peaking. You can kind of gauge it here, hit record, and you're good to go. So the only problem with that is there's no indicator here that lets you know you're recording, and that's the only weird thing about it. From what I can tell and how the distances that I've been, it's always been accurate and working. So that's the only thing you may want to check, or maybe you'll see it on your display, not really sure. You may think this is a little awkward at first because it's not a set rocker here, but it's actually pretty nice. It's easier than you may think. Now you can just tap it, like ease your way into it, or you can hold it, and there's like a little soft bump here on both sides, and if you go all the way, it's like it makes it focus fast, you know what I mean, either direction. You will feel the controller vibrate. It reminds me of like a video game controller when you reach the end points of whatever part you're focusing on. And another cool thing is the A and B points. So if you're racking focus, you can go ahead and find your spot, hit the A button, and then go to the other spot, hit the B button, and then you'll see the A and B on here light up. And then when you focus back and forth, they'll automatically stop at those points, and you can do it faster or ease it slowly. And this is not hard as you may think. Just get used to it, and it'll be pretty easy. And when you want to get off the A and B point, just re-click or de-click the A and B again. Now there's an iris lock here. Honestly, I didn't read the manual. I'm not really sure what it means. All I know is that when you stop the lens down, let me turn this on. When you stop the lens down, let me do it. See how the screen's getting dark? Hopefully you can see it. When I hit iris lock, it just opens it right back up. But you can't control anything else, so I'm not really sure what that's for. I don't think it's something I'm gonna need because it's not something, I don't know. I don't really care for it, to be honest. So let me just hit record. Hopefully you can see it. And then my arm's getting tired holding this, but I hit record and I'm filming myself. This monitor right here. So before, this is what I was using on my other cinema cameras. Now, you can get this on Amazon and it works well, it really does. It comes with a power adapter and you can use 5-volt sources, power sources, and you have the HDMI right here and the SDI on this side. The issue that I had is I actually had problems powering this, and I don't know if it was me or what, but I thought I was following the right voltage and power and whatever, and it was lighting up, but it wasn't sending the signal. And it got to a point where I just said, forget it. This is inexpensive, and if you're in a place where you have outlets and you're in like a studio or just a location where you have power this works fine, and you can use your existing monitors. Let me show you what I've been using recently, which is this. I had to buy this case separately, but this is a ANDYCINE monitor. Now I actually like this. It works really well. If you've seen it, I know you've seen these on the internet already. They make them by Field World also, and they have the swivel here, which is a little finicky, but it's still good, and it does what it's supposed to do. For the price point, you really can't beat this. This price point is only about $180, so just under $200. It works really well. I just didn't want to use the adapters and all this other stuff. Color reproduction, I think, is really good on here as well, and I like it. The weakest thing on these things was two issues I have. One is they have a USB port right here. It's supposed to be for firmware updates. The problem is you can't do it. If they have a new update, you basically have to buy a new monitor, and that's kind of sucks. The other thing here is the build quality. I don't mind it being plastic. I don't mind it being lightweight. That's not the issue I have. The issue I have is how sturdy it feels. So I wish, even if it cost 20 more, 30 more, I would have paid for it. Internally, if they had made a metal kind of frame structure, it would have been so much better, because if you mount anything to here or here, and you put it on some kind of tilt thing where you have to grab this and flex it, I'm afraid that it'll break your screen or break something here, because it's all plastic and it doesn't really work well. If it is some kind of metal, it's something so cheap that it's not gonna hold up very well. All right, so for example, I have this right here. This actually was sent to me prior, but I actually like this. They call it like a vlogger kit. It has like nice cinema tools in here, and it works really cool too. And it's very handy to have. It's all in one place. So if you use something like this, for example, where it spins around and you can tilt it, if you put that in here and you grab the monitor, it kind of reminds me if you have like an old digital screen or a TV even, and if you push on the screen hard enough, you kind of see where your fingerprint was. That's the kind of thing, or the stress that you put on the screen, because I saw it already, and if I pushed it hard enough and I wasn't really paying attention, I could have easily damaged the screen. So that's what I don't like. You have to basically be careful, grab it by here and pull and push. If you're aware of something, you get used to it and you work around it. Without that being said, I don't really like that about it. The color reproduction is good, everything else is good. This one has like 4 shortcuts on it. It has nice features on it for the price. You're not gonna really beat it. So I just picked this up intentionally for this camera alone. I checked the color quality. They seem to match when I put it on HDMI. The only thing is, if you put it on the standard color profile, I think it's like a color temperature you put for like 5600 or something like that. The settings didn't really match this one by default, but the reproduction looks pretty much the same. And I pretty much judged that by looking at the monitor that comes with the camera, and to see how close it resembles the original screen. So the cool thing about this actually came with the case. I don't think it's as good as the one I bought separately, but I'll post that one, and the other one's a little bit bigger. So this one is about closer to a 5-inch screen, and this one is a 7-inch screen. This has your typical manual stuff I'm not gonna go over. It has a very low profile SDI cable, 3G SDI. This has like a clamp. I'm not even gonna open it because I'm never gonna use it. If you really wanna know what it looks like, I don't know, you can go to the actual manufacturer site, they show it, and it has a power brick. Let me just actually throw this back in here. If you're gonna put the monitor on top of the camera, this works well. It's very flexible and short. If you want to run the monitor from a distance, like if you're filming yourself and you can't tell if you're catching focus, but you want the monitor close by, I would recommend getting a better quality cable. Now this is all wrapped up in this nonsense, but it's a lot thicker and sturdy. I really like SDI connections. The only difference is, if you look at these cables, the metal part itself is shorter. So it makes it a little more difficult to grab this if you're trying to unscrew it out versus this one. It's a lot easier, but that's just being very petty and just trying to talk about anything I can that may be important to you. All right, so this right here, you can rip this off. It's just a cover to protect the monitor. One thing I'll say is better off the rip is this, the way you release the battery. You just push a button. On here, there's like a thing you push in. And I think I saw Tom Antos talk about it before, and I saw his video after I already was aware of the monitor. I was just seeing what people thought about it. And I'm not gonna lie, if you push this thing in and you're not expecting it, you will jam your little finger right here, because it happened to me a few times. and it felt like it like bruised my fingernail area for real. So, but once you're aware of it, you don't really get that effect. Like I said, once you're aware of things, you kind of get used to it, and you have to work with yourself. You have to work around it basically. So this one's way easier. You just push the button, slide it out. You have SDI in, SDI out, and you also have HDMI in, HDMI out. Now for my purposes, I don't need to use both. If you have a question on if you can do both at the same time, ask me and I'll test it out for you. If nobody asks me, then I'll just leave it be. Because I wonder if you can do SDI in and then HDMI out to like a separate recorder if you wanted to. I'm not really sure. The only downfall I will say, and it's nothing to do with the monitor, it's actually the cinema camera itself. It may be all SDI cameras. I'm not really sure. I didn't test it on like an Ursa or anything like that. But if you, on a cinema camera, if you're watching this, more than likely you're already aware of what this camera is. If you shoot in film and you view it in video, right? That's where you shoot it flat, but you're viewing it with a little bit of like Rec 709 LUT on it or something. So you can basically see the image kind of how it might look when you're done. And also it kind of gives you an idea. Oh, it helps you better with focus peaking as well, because you have sharper edges and more contrast in the image. So that's how I like to shoot with the camera. When you shoot, I don't, for some reason, when I use this adapter, the HDMI, this thing, I don't remember having this issue. I remember putting it in video mode and it still was in video, but I could be wrong because it's been a while since I used this. But shooting this directly with the SDI, I noticed that when you shoot in film, it's still gonna, and you view it in video, it will still show film on here. And because the Blackmagic, because the way film looks in general, it looks kind of ugly on here, to be honest. And it's a little bit hard to judge things. So I would pretty much base everything on the camera, in my opinion, on here first. And then after that, when I run it to here, I'm just looking at it for monitoring purposes. But if you put in video mode here to record in, then you don't have to change view or what, it's gonna be in video mode, and it'll show it here normal in video mode. So that's a little weird. I don't really think the colors match here with the screen on here almost at all. It looks pretty off to me a little bit. But when I checked it on like a Sony camera or the Canon, it looks just fine. So I think it's just this guy right here. The only other thing with this is there's only 2 shortcuts. This one too, when you hit the power, you just tap it, really. On this one, you have to hold it. This is how you can compare them by size. It does kind of look a lot bigger, but in person, it does not feel like this is big at all. It feels normal, actually. They both feel fine. 5-inch, 7-inch, it's a bit different in size. So basically, like I said, when you screw this on here, it still works decent and well enough, just the same as this flip bracket. Because instead of flipping the monitor, all you do is just turn it. You know what I mean? Now, see, like I just did that, it loosened the screw up a little bit. That's a little annoying. You gotta be careful with all this stuff. But basically, this will be in the cold shoe, and the cold shoe itself will rotate, not this part. It's just doing it now because I think I don't have it mounted on anything. But if you see, this is turning the bottom, and it allows you to swivel the screen around. You just have to be careful with the cords, so when you swivel it back and forth, you're not tangling cords. But other than that, I think this works really well. So if you see me pulling on here, you'll see this get white right here. Well, I'm not gonna keep doing it because I'm not gonna break it. I literally just purchased this the other day, so I'm not gonna go and breaking it on purpose for the camera. But that's the weakest portion of this whole monitor, is where you connect it. That's the thing too, with camera gear and filming and photography, the setup is just as important. So you really pay for convenience. If you think about it, if you have like, so some people buy new gear because they like new things, right? Some people like the technology. Some people like to make it convenient because time is money. And if you do this for a living outside of YouTube, or maybe YouTube is the way you make your money, how quick and effective and efficient you're able to do whatever you're hired to do or you need to do for that income, that plays a big part. So it's almost like having remote control, right? You have a Blu-ray player, a cable box, and a TV. You have 3 remotes here. And then you have and they were free. They came with the devices that you purchased. And then you have a universal remote that costs like $100, $200. Somebody's gonna say, why would you buy that? Because you have 3 remotes that work and they came with it for free. You have that type of person. And then you have a person where that time makes a big difference in what you're trying to do. So if your job was to watch TV for a living, quickly, then obviously the universal remote would be the all-in-one solution that you may want to go for. That'd be a great job, by the way. But basically time is money. You have to do what's best for you in your situation. If it doesn't bother you, if you don't have clients to even, where that would even matter, then yeah, just save your money, Jimmy rig whatever you gotta do, and save some money and keep filming and creating in photography, whatever you do, right? If it affects your time, then you should invest into it, in my opinion, where I feel like the gear would make the difference between you and another person being effective, efficient, getting the job done the way you need to without stressing about other things. So for example, if you ever seen any video that I did while trying to teach something, it's very hard for me personally because with my regular work, I have everything lined up where I'm being paid and it's structured. I don't have time to vlog and talk about things when someone's paying me to do something else. It's like I have to focus on whatever I'm focusing on, and I can't do too much or I'll mess something up and then I'm not giving my full attention to what I was hired for. When I do a video of, I tried it, I didn't do very well at it, to be honest. So big thumbs up to the people or YouTubers who actually have very good tutorials on maybe lighting and all kind of stuff. It takes a lot of work to do those videos, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So a lot of times I'm not gonna pick up models or pick up clients. I'm using my kids, and kids can already be difficult to cooperate with what you wanna do or accomplish in a video, especially when you need something specifically done. It's not like a natural vibe of anything. I just want to hurry up and get the shot and get out of there. And as soon as I get anything that's just enough, I'll be like, it's enough, and we'll keep it moving. I don't have time to spend, I don't have a lot of time to put that much energy into it. And if you're moving your own light, you're taking the pictures or doing the video and trying to film yourself when can't even see what's going on, that's a lot of work. So that's where, to me, like for those examples, technology would play a huge part, and that's where you'd want to maybe invest in some things. So again, this video is not really specifically about the Blackmagic camera. It's not really specifically about any particular item. It's just random, generic talk about things that I wanted to talk about, pickups that I've recently picked up. I just brung this up because right now Blackmagic is really pushing things forward with the technology and the price point with the Pocket 4K. I'm hearing a lot, I have mine on back order or on order. It's just that, I don't know, man. I hear a lot of things where people are saying it doesn't seem reliable and all this other stuff, but at the same time, it's $1,300. Like, I don't know. These are still nice workhorses. I just think a lot of people don't understand how to grade or color correct these type of cameras, which is kind of expected because it seems like most of the people, because of the price point, a lot of people pick these up who probably really didn't need them in the first place, and then they're getting into something that they didn't realize what they're getting themselves into. And to be honest, I was like that in the very beginning too, like with the pocket cameras. It took me a while to even understand it completely or wrap my head around it, coming from like DSLRs and that type of camera, right? So if this was helpful at all, please hit like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification icon to get future updates on future videos, or visit www.howtoandreviews.com. Till next time.